Reese and Christine, as you said, this really could not have come at a worse time. People were already irritated by the heat, just trying to get home from work to enjoy the weekend, and then things were at a standstill. Many, though, not surprised that the MTA did it yet again. New Yorkers packed on stuck trains and sweating bullets on sweltering, crowded platforms with no AC.
Hot and aggravated, like it makes no sense at all. I'm just trying to get home.
I feel like I'm in a sauna and I'm just trying to get back to Jersey.
The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 trains, plus the Times Square shuttle, completely suspended in both directions just before 6 p.m., the height of the evening rush hour.
Oh my gosh, with the heat and the messed up train, it's too much. It's just too much because there's no air.
The MTA says a crucial computer system malfunctioned, meaning all signals were lost for those numbered lines.
Look at my hands from the pole,
From evacuating.
Subway riders forced out of the train and onto the tracks. You can see firefighters pulling people off those tracks and onto the platform at the 149th Street Grand Concourse 2, 4, and 5 station in the Bronx. 5 trains were stuck in between stations. Riders trapped for hours.
They kept saying they don't know what's going on. For an hour and 36 minutes, we were trapped on the train.
2-3 hours. I mean, almost 3 hours.
The fiasco started around 8:25. That's when a Con Ed power surge forced the subway signaling system to switch to backup power. It held until about 9:10 when it mysteriously failed.
Confused passengers seeking help from the MTA as they tried to find a way home.
The on train, to the Barclays.
That's after 2 trains came to a sudden stop after a power failure between the J Street Metrotech station and Hoyt-Schermerhorn stations around 5:30 p.m. Wednesday.
That's how asinine the MTA is right now. The MTA, they can't work in the rain.
The FDNY responded, helping pull stranded passengers from subway grates as other frustrated commuters dealt with delays.
It's cold. I want to get home.
4 days a week, I take the F train.
And now you find out there's no power on it.
Basically, I'm gonna have to find another way home.
The MTA says the loss of power resulted in disruptions to the ACFG lines, which either lost power or had to be rerouted. A commuter mess Thursday evening.
It's terrible, honestly.
That's after the A, B, C, and D trains came to a halt in the middle of rush hour.
We were stuck on a train for over an hour.
The platforms at the Times Square station crowded. MTA crews were seen on the tracks inspecting the problem, while subway riders were left confused and waiting on trains at Columbus Circle.
At first it said 30 minutes, and then it said 40 minutes.
MTA employees helped frustrated subway riders exit the trains and find alternate ways to get home.
No HBCD trains are running. Take the train, take the one train.
I'm tired. I want to go home. Now, who knows how long it's going to take.
The MTA says the issue was the loss of power on the 3rd rail, which resulted in no service from Columbus Circle all the way up to 125th Street for hours.
I believe in coincidences. Coincidences happen every day. But I don't trust coincidences.
Well, this week we have 2 MTA stories with the congestive pricing that's going on, the insanity, or the tax, however you want to put it. Because there's some issues, and the best thing I love this week is people say, well, it's already working. I said, excuse me, it's only been a couple of days. It's been about a week. That's not how you gauge it. We just came out of the holidays. Traffic levels are going to change after the holidays, okay? You have to understand that. You have to wait at least a year before you get any semblance of what has changed. But the one thing that we know already is that basically there are drivers being screwed out of $9, and that's those who are crossing over the 59th Street Bridge or the Ed Koch Bridge. Because you say, well, are they going downtown? I said, no, they're going uptown. They're getting hit going in on the bridge, and they're getting hit coming off the bridge. And the thing about it is, they're going uptown. Most of the people are turning, they're going uptown. So now what happens is they're going to have to go out of their way to go way up to Harlem and cross over there. There's like a bridge, I forgot which bridge that was, that you can cross over there and come up on 116th Street and then come back downtown, which that'll drive a lot of traffic down there because there's a lot of traffic in that neighborhood. See, they didn't think these things out. They put it to the point where basically they said, well, we did environmental studies. I said, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. You did Cliff Notes. That's what you did. You have people who hate cars. They'd rather be on bikes. These are the same type of people that, if you ever saw the Lee Majors movie, The Last Chase, which basically was a world where cars and gasoline was eliminated and everybody was on bikes and didn't go anywhere. They didn't really go anywhere. And it turned to a point where basically Lee Majors played an ex-race car driver, buried his car, dug it back out again, and knew that, and funny part, yeah, he knew that California was free, so he was driving to California, and the government decided to send a fighter jet, which the pilot was played by Burgess Meredith, which was an insane character in that, to go after him. And there's a line at the end of the movie that basically gets every time, and he's like, oh, cars.
Car on the loose. A symbol. A symbol. People going all over. When they want to and where they want to. Have you thought what else this would be? Cars everywhere. And people wanting the things.
Back in the road. Anarchy. People going places. You know, it's a stupid, because this is what they want. They want you to be on a bike. They want you to take the subway. They don't want you to be traveling all over the place. This is their stupidity. And the thing about it is, the reason for a lot of the traffic that was going on recently is because they eliminated lanes of roads in the city and in the outer boroughs and put bike lanes in. They either put bike lanes, paths, closed out certain parts of certain neighborhoods, and created walkways, which there was plenty of a sidewalk walkway to walk on. It's just that, you know, you're in a city that basically gets a lot of tourists. But the other major issue to this congested price, besides the mayor and the governor situation, is the MTA. The MTA has long been just a thorn in New Yorkers. Service is horrendous. I mean, right now it's even worse than ever. If you live in the outer boroughs, like for example, and I've talked about this before, Staten Island, the bus system is just ridiculously horrendous around here, especially like, you know, main lines like the S48. You could be still at like around 7, 8 o'clock and waiting 2 hours for one at certain points because they don't have enough buses versus drivers. Why? Because the MTA, in their great wisdom, has cut back overtime on mechanics. Sounds familiar? Didn't they do that in California with the fire trucks? You know? There's not enough buses out there to handle for all the drivers. So what's the drivers doing? They're sitting around waiting for buses to become available to them. And, you know, the story that's coming up, they just bought 265 more buses with money they didn't even have yet. They can, it's the congested pricing bought that. How do they buy that? Congested pricing hasn't been on a month. And you already, you know, it's like you won the lotto and haven't gotten the check yet. and you're buying everything. Not attempting that for tax, or possibly you might, other winners, you might not get that whole, say like $100 million. You might not get that whole $100 million. You might get like $25 million. But you're spending the whole $100 million.
I mean, even Gronk was like, me know that not real money. Like,
but that's a separate story we'll talk about in another edition. But the main part of this, and this is the important part you got to put to this perspective. From the 2nd Avenue subway to buying new buses, problems with the train systems, problem with signaling, problem with electrical on there. MTA is on a fast track to collapse. And it's going to happen eventually. God forbidding, we're going to have a system-wide shutdown eventually down the line. This is going to happen. It is something that basically, they've put Band-Aids on everything in the New York City subway system. And what has it accomplished? Nothing. We had that situation where basically, subway shut down because they blew a transformer or electrical line that's 90 years old. 90 years old. There are track signals that were there when I was a kid that hasn't been replaced. And not only, that you have the city stuff, you got the Long Island Railroad, you got Metro North, and also a piece of the New Jersey Transit that runs through our system. Meanwhile, they're putting money into projects that basically have been running for decades. 2nd Avenue subway was put into play in the 1930s. Here we are in 2025, and it's not even completed. Yeah. It was like late 20s, early 30s. The last time they put a shovel in, besides in the last 10 years, was back in the 70s. And there was stopped. And, basically, it was just like we didn't have the money to do it. Or basically, we have to divert things. The MTA, no matter who's been up on top, basically, they just literally don't understand how to spend money. I'm not saying I'm the greatest accountant in the world, but you could see from the years, go through the history of the MTA, how many problems they've had and how many they have solved to that point. Gotham has put out an interesting article out there, A State of Collapse, How the MTA Put Riders on the Fast Track to Ruin. In the peak of a rainy evening rush hour on December 11th, an F train in the Brooklyn subway tunnel came to a screeching halt. Many of the 1,700 commuters on board let out a familiar groan. After about 20 minutes, they realized this delay was different. I'm going to try and see if the train moves. Just hold on to something in case it jerks back, the train operator said over the loudspeaker, according to the video from the scene. I don't know if it's going to work, but cross your fingers. The riders heard a few loud clicks and a high-pitched whirling sound. Then the train felt silent. I tried. I'm sorry, the conductor said, prompting jaded laughter from the riders. Both the operator and his train were literally powerless. A nearby substation room in the downtown Brooklyn that feeds electricity to Subway's third rail had exploded with enough force to blow a door off of its hinges and onto the tracks, according to an internal MTA records obtained by Gothamists. Service was halted on the A, the C, the G, and F lines for upward to 3 hours, sending tens of thousands of New Yorkers onto rain-slicked streets to figure out a new way home. The exact cause of the explosion is still under investigation, but the MTA official said the electric room relied on a 90-year-old technology. That's not unusual. According to the transit agency, 77 out of the 224 substations that power subway trains in New York City are in similar shape and in dire need of upgrade due to outdated and unreliable technology. The system breakdown that left riders stranded in subway tunnels for hours points to a sobering reality. The city subways aren't just on the brink of collapse. The breakdown of the aging system has already begun. The number of train delays caused by faulty infrastructure and equipment last year shot up 46% since 2024. MTA data shows major incidents defined as problems that delay 50 or more trains, like the one on December 11th, reached their highest levels last year since 2018. During a 3-month investigation, Gothamist reporters touted 8 transit facilities that are off limits to the public and got first-hand look at the MTA's old, crumbling infrastructure. Reporters interviewed more than 100 riders on nearly every subway line across the city about on a daily inconvenience they endure due to a shoddy system. The way the world looks at New York, it's like there's so much money here. It's like the capital of capitalism. Everything's great and whatever. And the train is terrible, said Jane train rider Marcelo Toro, 34. Internal MTA records obtained by Gothamist and the agency public data revealed that service breakdowns are on the pace to become more frequent in 2025 than during the New York infamous Summer of Hell in 2017, when the subways reliably fell to its lowest level in decades. MTA officials blame those problems on deferred maintenance or decades of cost-saving measures that kept equipment in use far beyond its expiration date. But those same problems persist, and experts warn the same thing is about to happen again, creating cascade issues throughout the system. If you don't invest in the foundation of a house, the house is going to fall down when the wind comes, said John Samuelson, international president of the Transit Workers Union. And this is correct to that situation. Why does this sound like California and the reservoir situation and the brush situation? You know, they pump all this money into these agencies, into the government issues, says they're supposed to take care of these situations, but nothing's been taken care of. So where's all the money have gone to? The MTA has faced criticism for decades due to the lack of its investments in its infrastructure. Transit officials were forced to scale back maintenance work during the financial crisis of the 1970s. I remember that. And during the 1990s under former Governor George Pataki. A reduction of state funding for the MTA's construction budget forced the agency to take on billions in debt that's still paying off. State lawmakers are now in debate whether and how to fund an ambitious MTA plan to repair the system. The MTA wants $65 billion to repair and upgrade MTA's core infrastructure for the next 5 years, including new train cars and electrical systems across the region. The MTA said it is funded for less than half of the plan, meaning that the state lawmakers need to find at least $33 billion to make it a reality. The top 2 members of the legislature vetoed the plan last month as they negotiate over its funding, which is likely to come in the form of new or dedicated taxes for the MTA. But see, the thing is, the MTA keeps buying and putting money into things that they shouldn't. You know, like I said, we have the story later on, 265 new electric buses. They're not going to work well in New York, okay? These are battery operated. Wait till we are in low temperatures. You think those buses are going to work properly or charge properly? And then Biden, before he left office, just gave them about $1.89 billion loan to do the makeover of the Midtown bus terminal. Do we really need that? Do we really truly need that? Look at all the old mall sections the MTA runs. You have one that, you know, was supposed to have all this shopping and great like that. And what's happening there? All the stores have closed out. Get that. You know, they were all closed out. The money for the plan doesn't include the $15 billion that's supposedly be financed by Manhattan's new congestive pricing tolls, which are required to pay for mass transit upgrades that were first planned in 2019. MTA Chair Janet Lieber has in recent months said that the subway service is the best it's been in a million years.
What kind of babbling bullshit is this?
But in interviews with Gothamist, he also acknowledged that the system's tenuous state, saying many of the trains are held together with rubber bands and paper clips. And that's the new ones too. Let me tell you something. Staten Island here, we got some new subway cars. they're already offline. Yeah, they already took them offline. They just put them online and offline. The same thing happened in the city with all the new cars. They've had to take them offline because of the issues. And this is going to the same thing happen with the new buses as well. MTA officials warn their $65 billion plan doesn't even cover all the work needed to keep the subways from falling apart. Experts warn that the jaw-dropping cost of the plan points to another major problem for all sorts of public works in New York. Infrastructure upgrades are hampered by the city construction costs, which are among the highest in the world. The MTA has a long history of mismanaging taxpayer dollars. For example, the agency's East Side Access Project, which opened in 2023 as the new Grand Central Madison Terminal, took more than 55 years to complete. Its phase ran more than $8 billion over its original project. Lieber, who previously ran the MTA's construction department before taking over as agency chair in 2021, has argued he has made reforms to avoid gross mismanagement of the projects. Still, the MTA's sky-high buildings cost persist. In the U.S., we pay for more stuff, and not just like 10% more, but sometimes a factor of 2, 3, 4, 5, said Eric Goldman, who oversees the New York Transit Cost Project. We could do better. We could do faster. We could do cheaper. The subway system runs on electricity, which makes the system vulnerable to a growing number of flash floods fueled by climate change. On a dry day, 254 pump rooms pumped about 14 million gallons of water out of the subways during Hurricane Sandy in 2012. The system was inundated with more than 60 million gallons. See, the thing about it is, it's not climate change. We get a lot of rain, but the problem is our sewer systems are backed up. They're clogged up. I remember about a couple of years ago, where we used to live on Staten Island, we were on a slope downward. Now, in most cases when it rained, it went all the way down to the bottom, which basically the main road, this was Richmond Terrace, which basically it kind of flooded up there and the water went nowhere, even though we were close. You were close to the water, to the river. In time, it kept building up to the point where even if you were on the hill, the water got into your home, especially during Sandy. They came in and fixed those drainage systems. So basically, because they went in there and they looked at it and they're like, we need to repair it. They dug everything out. The contractors didn't do a good job. I mean, we had just did repair work on the house because our sewer pipe cracked because of the issues. And after I had it repaired, city came in with a contractor and cracked my water pipe. Amazing. It's just amazing, what happens to this situation. Reading on, the equipment that expels water from the system includes technology installed in the 1920s, according to Jamie Torres Springer, the new MTA head of construction. And that's the other half. The pumps were for the 1920s, not current day. Weather changes, and, obviously, your sewer system is outdated as well. So what's going to happen? That water has to go somewhere. And where is it going to go? Into the subway lines, obviously. 2 of those old pumps are behind a door at the 116th Street station on the 2 and 3 lines. Commuters who pass by likely have no clue that they're standing just feet away from an infrastructure that looks like it should be in the museum. The 2 oldest pneumatic pumps in the room are so old they can't be automated and run on air pressure that's calibrated by a twist of a handle. The 98-year-old pump room is about as big as a public bathroom with 2 stalls. The 4 pumps inside, the 2 pneumatic ones and that predate the Great Depression, and the 2 newer electric ones are responsible for removing waters from the tracks throughout the area. The subway station sits in a geological bowl, and heavy rain can easily overwhelm the pumps. When the area was a wetland, a stream ran from where 116th Street subway station is now to the East River. That makes the subway tunnels in the area especially susceptible to flooding, even on a dry day like the one during the historic drought. A 12-foot deep sub pump was still half full with water. Do you see what we're going with this? They go, well, it's climate change. No, it had nothing to do with climate change. It's the equipment. There was still water in the pumps. A pump room like this equipment is over 100 years old, so it's often in poor condition, said Taurus Springer. It is being held together with chewing gum and twine in a lot of cases, and it doesn't have the capacity to handle the water flow that we see because of heavier rainfall events. The MTA is allocating $700 million in its next capital plan to upgrade more than a dozen pump rooms with state-of-the-art equipment. The century-old pumps, like the one in 116th Street, can push out 150 gallons per minute, but a more modern one can push out 1,500 gallons per minute, according to MTA officials, if it doesn't break down. Karen Gregorian, acting general superintendent for the hydraulics at New York City Transit, said the modern pumps send automatic alerts when the tunnel is flooding, improving the odds that the service will be able to stay on track. We have a high water alarm ringing at our quarters before anything severe happens on the track or any damage occurs, he said, and we can respond and see what else needs to be done. At any time, the MTA dispatches crews to fix sections of the track or replace broken equipment. They arrive on diesel-powered trains, but many of those locomotives date back to the 1960s and frequently break down. The MTA reports 44% of its 100 work locomotives and 500 work train cars are beyond their useful life. Those train cars, which haul tools, equipment, and other material, are essential to fixing the subway. Every week, there are projects that we are trying to do with our system that we are not able to proceed with because we don't have enough functioning working trains, said Taurus Springer. So that it's not that the working trains are breaking down in the middle of us doing work. It is that the beginning of the weekend, we have to say, well, gee, all these closures that disrupt the service that we have planned, we can't do all of because we don't have enough work trains. And there's more toward this. I would encourage you to go out and read it. But the thing is that even the MTA knows there's going to be more delays. There are going to be more situations. There are going to be more transformers blowing out. They know that they have these problems. But what have they done? What have they done for me lately? Which is the truth. They're not doing anything to resolve this situation. Like this article says, the MTA is already beginning to collapse from within. It's a matter of time where main lines will stop operating because they can't do. I mean, there's also train tracks that need to be replaced that are very old. Columns that need to be repaired. The elevated track systems that basically we have in the outer boroughs, those need to be rechecked to make sure that they do not collapse. We've had bridges collapse, in this country. We've had it happen. Even in New York, we've had situations of this nature. Our infrastructure is very old. Both our government over in D.C. and our local state government and the MTA itself are responsible for this. I've said 100%, stop funding these wars that basically, we shouldn't be in. Stop funding pet projects that, they said, well, we got to, the environmental, this is that, without doing the proper research. Throughout the country, we have an infrastructure problem. It's not only in New York, it's throughout the country, especially in liberal states. Money is being diverted elsewhere for stupid things. They want to get rid of. We had the other video that Gavin Newsom's another recall is coming from. We need to recall Governor Hochul. We need to recall Mayor Eric Adams and many in our city council because they're not doing their job. All they're doing is all this activism to the situation. We have major problems on the board, but they're feeding all this money elsewhere, and it's killing our cities. It's killing our cities. Our transportation hubs, how much longer do we have? I don't know. Could be tomorrow. Could be a month from now. Could be a year or two from now. We don't know. But it's in decline. You know, there's stuff that goes back 100 years that we're still working with. And meanwhile, they're buying buses that, you know, buses and trains that are just not, you know, up to par, up to specs. Stop buying electric. You know, you could buy energy efficient and clean buses that will work properly here in New York. You don't need electric buses. You don't. They're not going to work right. Maybe for the summer, maybe. For the winter, you're going to have a lot of problems. So comment. Let me know your thoughts about this. Tell me, you think the collapse is going to be soon or it's going to be later? Let me know. Or you think we're just blowing smoke? So let me know in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe, and we will see you on the next one. Thank you for tuning in, and bye-bye now.